we are going through the book of Revelation. And what's kind of funny, we've been doing like a chapter a week, but we've been going through like half a chapter into it each week. But I think the refresher is good for us in the amount that we're reading it. So if we remember the first little bit of Revelation, it talks about the churches. First off, the first little bit is like a primer, kind of getting us ready for what we're seeing here, and then we're introduced to all like the churches, which is the 7 churches. It kind of seems like it's all the churches, and so we're introduced to all of that, and these issues I think exist in all of the churches, and then after that we're introduced to and we're given a primer as to how to look at the rest of the book, I think. So, and the biggest thing that I see in that is that we're in this like mighty court of heaven, and everything looks like just all huge. And like when they finally look through all the smoke and the haze and the bigness and all that stuff, they see a lamb that was slain. And that is a key and a critical idea, because I think with Revelation, it's going against Babylon, basically. Babylon has all these different names. Babylon is called Rome or Assyria, or all
Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt. Egypt is a Babylon. Like all of these different stories and going through here, they're all trying to become big and powerful and important, right? And we see the kingdom of God. That's why I think the notion that when we see the genesis of the power is in the lamb that was slain. And I think that is a key idea in the kingdom of God. That's the thing that, all through Matthew, we call it the backwards beautiful way. That's, all of this stuff is constantly going through there and showing us the way in how it's done. So that's what I think is kind of the point of where we are. Let's see, what are we, the last little thing. So we're in chapter 5, we're introduced to this scroll, and remember, no one was worthy to open the seals of the scroll except for that lamb that was slain. And so as they and we mentioned this, but I want to say it again. We get a lot of our historic liturgy from this area, which this area is pulling from old synagogue worship and all of this stuff. Like our Christian life is really located in a lot of these words that we say, a lot of our churches say every Sunday. And so, let's see so then we're introduced to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and we're introduced to them as the seals are being opened. And what I love about the 4 horsemen is they keep saying those, was it the angels or something like that? Those 4 living creatures kind of thing, which are like the Christ head. They keep saying look, come and see. And you have this one with holding it's a bow, but a bow is like the peak of warfare. That was, what we would call a tomahawk missile today, or whatever the cool stuff. That was the 90s hotness with the tomahawk missiles, whatever the cool stuff is now. That I think you can get in the headspace of what bow meant to them. This is not the hunting season that starts before the hunting season. It's not bow season. It's because we kind of view the bow as a weak weapon. It was not viewed as a weak weapon back then. And so he's on this white horse and he's conquering. And then the second one is given the sword, and he wants to take peace from the earth, which that sounds exactly like Rome. It sounds like Babylon too. It's like you'll have peace if you bend the knee. Like you'll have peace, which is hilarious. Like that's my way or the highway type of idea going on there. And so like you guys need to know in this class, you'll have peace when you do what I say. Right? Like that's yeah, exactly. And then we have the one with the scales, which is very interesting because I think it's kind of this. It's after last week or 2 weeks ago or something, I can't remember. It brought back to the moment when Jesus said that you devour widows' homes. I think that bit with the scales is closer connected to that than other things. So like you guys, all this is just scales and money. It's just business, like and you're willing to railroad over somebody. Just it's just business. It's just the scales, like that. To be better at that, we'll be all right. And then the fourth one is like death and Hades and all of that stuff. That pale, almost sickly looking horse, When I was thinking the pale horse, and this is just my deflected brain. Oh, I'm just whenever I was thinking about like the pale horse, it kind of reminds me of when we went through Dickens' Christmas Carol and like the Ghost of Christmas Future, and that image was in my head when I was thinking of like the pale horse or something like that, and just kind of this almost grim reaperish type of idea. I don't know. That I'm not saying that that's correct. That's just where I was. Hi Pam, it's good to see you. and so then we went through those, and then we have these cries of the martyrs that are it's all these that have died under these four horsemen. Like that's it's all of these, and then let's see here. I'm trying to remember everything as we get into it here. Oh yeah, and then we have the king at the end of 6. You have the kings of the earth and the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave, every free, like they hidden themselves in the caves and the rocks and the mountains. Well, one thing I want to say about the rocks and the mountains and all that stuff is that's when your city was about to get attacked, like that, you would flee to like the rocks and the mountains because it's hard for people to overtake you when you're holding like a position above, like in these caves. It's hard for people to kill you. Whereas if you just stay in the city, that's over there. So they run out there. Also, there was a religious group around Jesus' time and after, and I don't know if they're being referenced here or not, but they're called the Essenes. We actually have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have a lot of our understanding of the Bible because of the Essenes, and they were kind of we call them a religious cult kind of idea going on, where they took all these scriptures out in the mountains and they lived in these caves and the hills, and they were very, very devout. Viewed things very literally, very like out there, and they kind of lived kind of by themselves out in the world. And so, think about there's probably groups of people that are living out in Montana or Wyoming that are like that. The Amish to some extent, yeah, like that. And so like that's, and they're kind of hiding out in these rocks and in these hills, kind of for that same reason. All right, so then we get to 7, and we did a lot of 7, but we'll read the whole thing. Did anyone want to add anything to my description as we were kind of catching up there?
I have a side track that I'd like to go down, but let's get.
You want to read first?
Yeah.
All right, a side track. I'm uncomfortable with any of that terminology.
That's why I use it.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Chapter 7.
After these things I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea.
Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads.
And I heard the number of those who were sealed. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. Of the tribe of Judah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Simeon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Levi, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zebulun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Joseph, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice.
Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb.
All the angels stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 living creatures, and fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped God.
Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom, thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our God forever and ever. Amen.
Then one of the elders answered, saying to me,
Who are these arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from?
And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me,
These are the ones who come out of the great tribulation, and washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne will dwell among them. They shall neither hunger any more, nor thirst any more. The sun shall not strike them, nor any heat. For the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them, and lead them to living fountains of waters. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes.
Okay. That's the end of that chapter. Okay, so what I want to talk about here is kind of just go through 7 a little bit more again. Did you want to speak your piece now? Or yeah.
You always put me at ease.
So let's
Our first question is, I circle back to you and ask again, what was the significance of the omission of certain tribes of Israel? You pointed out that this was not an all-inclusive. Is there any significance?
It is all inclusive.
No, it's not. It's missing the book of Dan. It's missing Dan.
But Dan isn't, Manasseh, isn't that the same?
Dan is some ways associated with
the story.
false gods.
when did they get that association? I'm trying to remember.
Didn't Dan wage war on witting people who come in?
Wasn't Dan the end of Judges? Is when all that happened, or was that some other time?
He's described in Genesis because we just finished Genesis. He describes him and taking on idols in his family, and he married Hittites.
Yeah, that never really cleared out
Yeah,
like we were told to do.
right.
But isn't that in his generation, his great grandson or something, isn't this fella? Didn't we go over this?
Manasseh?
Manasseh is actually the son of Joseph.
That was.
And Joseph is listed in here,
It's listed, right?
which is odd, to me, because Joseph shows up, but Manasseh, his son, also shows up.
Well, you sure that's what the Manasseh is? That's what I'm saying. Isn't that a relative
Oh,
of
I see
Dan
what you're
down
saying.
generations later on that they picked him back up? That maybe Dan wasn't used because he dirtied that name.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
But didn't you say once that the thousands meant all of them?
Yeah, I think the way I've always viewed thousands is kind of like exclamation points.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like when you add tens and thousands onto things, like when they were like, and there were hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands, you know, like all that stuff. It's like you're talking about
Exactly.
like big things going on.
Because there's the 12 tribes, there's still 12 mentioned in here. That's why I thought, and I don't know, but I thought that meant they were all picked back up. Even though
Well,
Dan his name isn't said, but this looks like, if I remember right, I looked and there was a generation or two down from Dan, this.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the list of
Manasseh's
Genesis,
name.
in the list of Genesis, Joseph doesn't come. It's Manasseh and Ephraim.
Yeah. those
Ephraim
are
is
his
not in
two,
this list,
Right.
but
And-
When he was-
Manasseh
But Joseph is listed
Joseph
here.
is. So it's
So-
I don't know where this. I mean,
I don't know.
we have to
what that-
remember that you know, John had just been tarred and was having a fever dream, as Pastor said.
Right, and but the idea that there's 12 listed, 12 tribes listed, that's why I thought it
So
meant that.
I
they
think
were-
that's an important idea.
I think it's
The 12 tribes, because I think Acts shows us the importance of that number 12. That you remember the disciples at the beginning of the book of Acts, they strived to replace Judas.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they
You know,
did.
Oh, yeah.
If-
they did,
if,
yeah.
Well, and they did.
Yeah.
But that's I think that tells us something about how they viewed.
Would you ever hear about Matthias again?
Yeah. I think about how they viewed that number 12 in there. Because it could have been like, oh, that Judas, literally. and so they wanted to replace, basically to maintain that sanctity of that 12. And I think that cues us in to how important that number was in all of this stuff.
In their culture, that number was really
Yeah,
important.
at least it was to them. And we could assume that it was to here.
The other concept that I could raise is one that you said. You said this is very Babylonian.
Yeah. Well, it's very Roman, but Babylon is that overarching. Yeah.
It is, strikes me that we find urbanity versus pastoral. Is there not a city in this study of the Bible that is not rebuked, is not condemned? All of the Babylons are
Yeah.
condemned. It seems that the value is the pastor.
Now, what do you mean by that?
The opposite of concentrated populations that are cities. The cities seem to be the
Oh,
place where
okay, I
the
see.
four horses dwell,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Babylon or New York. And my question is, keep your seatbelts
Tomatoes,
fastened.
tomatoes.
Is there any hope for modernity?
So I think, okay, I see what you're asking there. So I think it was good that we brought up the Essenes at the beginning and like the Amish and
Which
all that
is
stuff.
what triggered me.
Yeah, and there is a stream inside of the scriptures, like Amos. It definitely fills the stream. Like Amos is kind of from the hill country. Like you can imagine some guy coming out of Scotland, and coming down to London, and it's like, this is all just awful, and like starts yelling, and that's in
Southern accent.
yeah. Well, it's related to Scotland.
Jesus was a shepherd.
Yeah, the
Shepherds
the
were not
shepherd-
in the city.
Yeah, the shepherds are, well, like the dominant theme of the Israeli kings is shepherds. Because remember David and like that, it's always been that idea. So there is this through line of how the cities are less than idea. However, there is also a through line about how to exist in said cities. I think you can look at those through lines as about how the cities aren't that great, and you're like, oh, we're just supposed to go out and live in, what is it, Alberta or whatever? I don't know Canada, but just trying to think of somewhere desolate. And we're supposed to go out and live out there in peace and serenity. But yeah, Montana and Wyoming are my two go-tos. The northern Mexico, right? Like that's but I don't think the way Jesus treats the Essenes, which he's never mentioned specifically, but they seclude themselves from society. And when he's kind of talking about those people that I can't remember any of it off the top of my head, he's probably mentioning the Essenes. And Jesus had some Essene ideas coming through, but all right, I'm just rambling. Let me stop rambling. Let me get to where I was going. Isaiah is very pro where you live. Isaiah is very pro where you live. Like you can see that in Jeremiah is also very pro where you live. Like it's all these things. It's tempting to look at Sodom and Gomorrah and go, oh, like these cities are just terrible and God is wreaking vengeance. When you read that story, it does not go the way that our popular culture understands that story, right? And so it's, I don't think, and also you look at, they were very nomadic at the beginning, and then they had these cities like come in, and Jesus comes to Jerusalem to be basically the sacrifice. So I think trying to make it easy by saying, oh, just live out in Montana, or if you live down in Miami, it's like, we're going to move to the sticks, Port St. Lucie. Yeah, like that. That's
Yeehaw Junction.
Yeah, Yeehaw Junction, like that, and I can then be holy. I don't think those two things merge, right? Like that's, I think you can have just a, whereas what Jesus says, it's not what goes inside of a man. It's not where a man lives, but it's what comes out of him that as he is. I think you could look at it that way. That's what defiles a man.
But that we're supposed to be a witness by going off and living on your own in an atmosphere of society that's maybe doesn't have all these faults. Even if you could have a society like that. Is that what he's asking us to do? I think that's part of it. He wants us to witness or to be a part of the world with all the evils in it, to proclaim him, to be his witness, right?
But we have instances where urbanites, biblical urbanites, ridicule Christ. Where are you from? Galilee?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Is that even a place?
Yeah. Well, you remember what Nazareth means? It means sticks, which is great.
Out in the boondocks.
Yeah, and like he's literally from the sticks.
Which again animates the unpleasantness of urban centers, where they condemn anything outside the walls as barbarians, as the Romans used to call them.
Yeah.
Also, when they talk about in chapter 3 in Revelations, they talk about the faithful church in verse 7. He talks about that church being faithful and good. He doesn't find anything wrong with them, except they have no strength. So strength still is part of the world today, even though he sees them as good, and they don't have any strength because they won't take that power. You know what I mean about strength and power has to be used. It's used in the wrong way, I guess.
Yeah. So I think there's also, I think this is something that C.S. Lewis in his Space Trilogy, if you guys know that C.S. Lewis wrote a Space Trilogy, I think he points out really well, and I think this is kind of something that that helps us with this. In the space trilogy, this guy named Ransom flies in a ship to Venus. I think it's Venus. Yeah, Paralandria is what Paralandria. And Paralandria is a pre-fallen world, and they have an Adam and Eve as well. And this devil, serpent guy thing, who's trying to make them fall. And our rule in our world was don't eat the tree. Like don't eat the fruit of the tree. In Paralandria, they're not to rest on the solid ground. And so what that means is everywhere in the world, the earth just undulates like an ocean, but it's earth. But there's like these solid parts and all of that stuff. And I kind of think, I think that's cueing into this idea that God constantly invests in like us, in the soft things. Mm-hmm. And I think some of what you're talking about is keying in to that idea. And I think you can live like that in amongst the cities, but you can also live a very city life in the middle of nowhere, Montana. Like that's if that makes any sense at all. And I think it's kind of a like a state of mind.
You can take the city out of you can take the boy out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the boy.
Yeah. And so I think making it easy where it's like, oh, just go be Amish.
How about the nuns and the Franciscan brothers that all stayed to themselves, that they weren't really
cloistered.
Yeah. Well, and you see, and I think Jesus and Luther points out what was going on in some of that stuff. Like Luther was like, you guys, you've become nuns and you become priests, but the reason why you've done that is so you don't have to take care of your parents. You basically like,
lost the whole reason.
you got rid of that debt maybe you had, like all that stuff. He's like, yeah, you've made yourself look righteous, but over there, and you see Jesus talks about that too. We're going to actually in a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about that because he remember when they're trying to trap Jesus in that adultery conversation. It's like who committed adultery, and he's like, you guys, like you've entered the priesthood, and you've said you've committed it all to God, which means they would say it's Corban, which means they didn't have to take care of their parents anymore. They didn't have to take care of their debtors anymore.
During the Second World War, men went to the priesthood, the Franciscan brothers that my mother happened to work for.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids that didn't want to go to war, they joined them.
They found God.
Yeah, they found God real quick. Right? And that's so. I think that's some of what we're kind of gotten off subject here.
Well, again, I appreciate you joining me in my world parenthetical.
Yeah. But I think like you. And remember, we read Daniel before this, and there's tons of allusions to Daniel in the midst of this. And Daniel lived in the power center of Babylon his whole existence, and yet was not Babylon.
Not just lived there, but kind of went up the ladder.
Like and that's kind of like he, capital L, lived there. Yeah. He didn't just exist. He didn't just keep his head down, and yet he continued to be who he was, who God set him apart to be, and all of that. And with all the allusions to Daniel in the midst of Revelation here, I think we can't forget that is a huge story narrative in the midst of Daniel. And also in Daniel, you got to remember too, what happens to Nebuchadnezzar. Like he treats people like wild beasts so much that God ends up making him a wild beast and grazed in Montana.
I think it was Wyoming.
Was it Wyoming? That's how it is, Wyoming. Like that's and so you have these two like disparate ideas going on, and that's what takes this stuff. A lot of times, I think we want this book, the Bible, to be this just checklist of like, all right, what do I have to do so I get to the good place? And that's not what it is. Do you remember what Israel means? Israel means in Hebrew, do you remember? Wrestles with God. Because Jacob wrestled with God, and Hebrew word, it means, wrestles with God. And as Western Christians, we have forgotten about that because so much theology that people spend time is so that you do not have to wrestle with God. It's like, if you believe all these things, you won't have to wrestle. You know? And like that's, and I think there's a holiness in the reading through this stuff and being like, what does this mean? Where's the wrestling today? And like that's, and I don't think this is about finding the definition. I think it's like we have been wrestling with God and we are continuing our journey. Does that make any sense? Probably not. But that's like that's people hate me for what I just said there, but that's all right. So what anyone else want to add anything else? Do we actually get back on Revelation?
Thanks for the snide remark.
Yeah. So let's continue to wrestle with this stuff. So chapter 7. The beginning with the first verse there, I saw these things, these 4 angels, these 4 messengers, and they're holding the 4 winds of the earth. That's interesting. It's like all these people of the earth, and that comes in later. Because I think that 144,000, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. Okay, so that the wind would not blow, which you kind of have this idea of the Spirit not blowing like that. Remember, that's all the same language there on any of the sea or the tree or anything, all that stuff. So let's see here. So we cried out to God. Let's see, this is into verse 2. In a loud voice of the angels who granted harm, the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. We end up seeing that there's a mockery of this later on in the book, the sealing of the foreheads.
666.
Yeah. Like the 666. There's a mockery of this, and I think we need to remember that. Like that's, as we go deeper into this book, we need to remember, because it's setting up the story for us and how to look at it, right? We've already seen the Lamb and all of that stuff, and we have all these boastful 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that are going against this. So we have these sealed servants of our God on their foreheads, and then I heard the number of those that were sealed. It was 144,000 of all the tribes and the children of Israel were sealed. So there are 2 ways that we've looked at this, and we see 144,000 later on in chapter 14 as well. We'll get to that. And it could mean like 12 times 12, but we also see that there's 12,000 people in each one of these tribes of Israel that are talked about. But if we remember, right, so it could just be talking about Israel, but we need to remember what happens in verse 9. And then and as all these things, after all these things, I looked, and behold, there's all these people from everywhere. Like, so he's talking about 144,000, but then he's talking about, and they're like all these people. It's still, even if you want to just localize 144,000 as Israel, Revelation, John does not let us localize it just in those people. Like, he is refusing to say it is just them. And he's like, look, it's all these people, like tongues standing before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed in these white robes, like, and there's this imagery to the kings, like in the Maccabees and all that stuff. Let's say saying with the palm branches and all that, salvation belongs to our God and to the Lamb. I don't think Maccabees is being viewed negatively here, by the way, like that's here in this book. I know I often present Maccabees as kind of a negative thing. I do not think it's being some of you are like, what is Maccabees? That was, like, we could talk about that
They're
later.
never forgotten though.
Yeah, yeah.
Back through all those ancient history books, they're in there.
Oh yeah, they are. They are. Like that's and they're important to the story because that's like Palm Sunday. Like Jesus is like that whole thing is playing out from Palm Sunday. It looks just like Hanukkah, and so let's see here. So salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb, and all the angels stood on the throne, and the elders and the four living creatures saying, blessing and honor and glory. So you have this image of all these people, not just Israel, but all these people that were added in Acts as well. You know, like all this stuff, all saying blessing and honor and glory, thanksgiving, honor and power. You know, like all this. It's this huge image of what's going on, and it does not let you look away from the image that is including all these people.
You have commented asked about othering, making people others, and this seems to speak to that, and that there are no others.
Yeah.
It's not merely the 145,000. The others are also
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whole multitude.
Like it.
So again, othering is refuted here.
Yeah. Like in it pretty strongly, I would say. Like it's hard to look away from it. You know, like you got to do a lot of work in order to not see a great multitude, no one can number, all nations, tribes, peoples, tongues, standing before the throne of the Lamb. You know, like that's, you got to do a lot of work to not see that. And so let's see here. So, all right, then verse 13. Then one of the elders answered me saying, who are these arrayed in white robes, and where do they come from? And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me, These are the ones who came out of the great tribulation, washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. We're dealing with weird language. This is the same language that we're dealing with, like, look at all the mightiness and the power of the glory of God, and you like look through all the smoke and the haze and the light show and the air horns going off and all that stuff, and you look at it and it's like, and it's a lamb that was slain. So this one is your white robes were made clean by the blood of the Lamb. Again, it's this backwards imagery.
Well, weren't these a lot of martyrs that were killed every which way, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Martyrs, you almost cringe, it's so bad.
Yeah, I think so.
I took it to believe all believers.
All believers, yeah. Like these that have gone through the struggle, that have gone through the tribulation.
Everybody has.
Yeah, and so therefore they are before the throne of God and serve Him day and night in His temple. He sits on the throne and will dwell among them. So like He has made Coley. I have a new gray shirt that's white, and Coley cringes every time I wear it. And like because she's scared I'm going to get something on it, and yet that can be made clean by blood. You know, it's backwards. It's backwards. You know, like that's
Getting blood on it.
Yeah, that's right. See, I know it is moisture making.
Spaghetti sauce. Really.
Yeah, spaghetti sauce. It's good.
I no longer feel guilty about my parenthetic.
Yeah. And let's see here. So, all right. So let's see. The end of 15, and He who sits on the throne will dwell among them. So again, that Lamb that was on the throne is with them, like dwelling among them. That's what Emmanuel means. You know, like that's like that. That's our Christmas theme and all of that stuff. So these people have gone through the great tribulation, and God is there with them in the midst of it too. You know, it's like one of my funeral sermons where I talk about Jesus weeps. You know, with Mary and Martha at the death of Lazarus. Rather than just making it better, He's like with them in the midst of it. And I think we're seeing that here. That's a great idea. I didn't see that last one. That's good. And so they shall neither hunger anymore or thirst, and the sun shall not strike them or any heat, for the Lamb who was in the midst of the throne will shepherd them and lead them into living fountains of waters, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. So that wipe away every tear from their eyes again, like we're going to see that again in chapter 21.
Is this a song? The format is.
Oh, you're all. Is that where we are? Yeah. Probably the ESV is probably picking up on it. And King James didn't pick up on it. And NIV. Oh no, he's got ESV.
NIV does.
NIV picks up on it. Okay.
Song.
That it's a song that they're a song. So what do you think? Why do the translators pick this up as a song? What does that start at verse 15? Like that's why do they pick that up as a song? What do you think that means? How does that change the meaning? What do you think? It's all just having fun. Praise? Yeah. Praise. Yeah.
Singing praises.
Like
So we should be celebrating this, the reading of this is a celebration. Look, you got through it.
Okay, yeah. Also, so with the song, I'm gonna share some sweet heresy with you guys. You guys ready for this?
What's new?
Yeah, what's new? Good. I think Genesis chapter 1 is a song, the song of creation. And what is the point of that? It's that there is all of this disorder, chaos, endless sea, like all these things, and like all the darkness all around there, and then an order is brought to the creation over those days, over those stanzas, and all those things, and we see creation. And if you look here, you have all this struggle, and God is with them in the midst of it. It's almost like this recreation is happening, like this redemption of the creation is happening, where it moves from they're not going to hunger or thirst anymore. The sun isn't going to strike them. There's no heat. The Lamb is in the midst of the throne, and he'll lead them, shepherd them to living waters and fountains, like all that stuff. Like, so it's almost like the redemption, this recreation kind of idea going on. The song part brought me
They're all with palms in their hands. Is that supposed to mean something?
I think that harkens back to the Maccabees, Palm Sunday, like that. I think like they're announcing that, like that's what they did for the kings, like that. And then the save us, and because that's basically what they're saying. Salvation belongs to God. Yeah, save us. What is the Hosanna? Hosanna. They're all saying Hosanna there. So like that. So I think there's some like recreation going on there. They're hearkening back to the very beginning. And God is bringing back the creation. Anyone have any thoughts before we read 8? That's good. I'm glad you pointed out that was a song. That's because I think that's what is that. My heresy about Genesis is actually pretty old. Like that's how the church used to view it. Is that Genesis 1 was a song. And all right.
C.S. Lewis does.
Yes, C.S. Lewis does as well, because he's hearkening back to the previous thing. Us looking at it like it's not a song actually is just people freaking out that modernity, and they're like, oh, we have to have a response to this scientific revolution. So their response was how we view it now, where it's like a science textbook. And I don't know, that seems to sap the beauty out of it for me. All right, let's read chapter 8. Read chapter 8. Let me make sure I get on chapter 8, okay. All right, and then let's share the screen. All right, here we go.
When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightning, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. And a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch. And it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water, because it was made bitter. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice,
Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the 3 angels who are about to sound.
Okay. All right. So this seems kind of rough. Kind of.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
In terms of these translations,
Mm-hmm.
we just heard an angel, and my version is referred to as an eagle.
An eagle?
Which one?
What verse?
Then I looked and I heard an eagle crying in a low voice.
What verse is that?
13.
Oh, near the end.
This is NIV, or what?
ESV.
And
I
NIV
looked and I
says,
heard an angel, mine has,
NIV,
yeah.
What does the NIV have?
Eagle.
That's interesting. Like that. That's all right. Let's look it up. I mean, all right.
Welcome to my rabbit hole.
Revelation
That's just a whole.
8:13. You said?
Yes.
Just a misprint.
Well, if it is eagle, that's
Yeah.
interesting. All right. Let me bring the zoom into this.
It's the voice. It's in the voices.
Yeah, it's a angel.
Okay.
Eagle.
All right. So let's see. And I looked and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, saying in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those dwelling on the earth, because of the remaining voices of the trumpet, the 3 angels being about the sound of their trumpets." All right. So let's look at what this word is. Let's look at the Strong's number. Come on. Oh no, did it freeze? Come on.
Wait.
Weight broke the wagon.
You can't. You have a class.
I know. All right, here, let me bring it back. Hold on, Pam. Hold on.
So what does the Greek say?
Yeah.
The menu.
Yeah. Like that one right there. Yeah.
Like those.
Is that
Like those, that's what it is.
is it the eagle? Yeah. I don't know why this page just stopped. We'll try again.
Defense is eagle too.
Yeah. Maybe it didn't like it that I closed the ad. Here we go. All right. Now we'll bring you over now, Pam. Here we go. And so this is the word. So Revelation. So it's used in Revelation twice. Strong's. There's the vultures right there. Yeah. Remember, it's just a big. It's a big thing. So, all right. So I think so. We have eagle, vultures, like that. You know, big bird that has a huge wingspan type.
Probably confused with an angel.
Yeah. I could see where that is, but I think that
Maybe John needed glasses.
yeah.
That's an angel.
Yeah. King James John. Yeah.
The subtext is Mick wouldn't know the difference anyway.
So John and his audience.
You made a mistake.
Yeah. John and his audience are writing. He's writing this. Is that eagle something good or bad? Like that, and what is his context? What could that eagle represent? Like that's
Devil.
the devil?
Mm,
Like that's what?
In
It is.
here I see divine intervention.
Divine intervention? Or is the eagle he's saying like woe to the inhabitants of the earth?
That could be Rome.
That's what I think. I think it's a reference to Rome. Because remember, what is their animal?
Eagle.
Eagle.
It's the eagle.
Eagle.
Eagle is this thing here.
Yeah, that's
Slash vulture.
yes. Yeah.
Only in a time of peace.
Only in the time of peace. Yeah.
When will that be?
Yeah.
When you believe.
How does that work?
But think about if that is, because there's other references right before this. The third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven. Like again, like is that? It is. I can't. But is that again a reference to
The gods.
Rome? Yeah, like with the gods falling, and like what's the one that goes really? It goes up and is like a star. That's not Apollo, is it?
Fireworks.
Like
God.
like that. That's I'm not sure. The Roman Greek stuff, there's so much crossover. Like it's. But
It's not the same.
yeah, they're very similar. So then you have and think about what it says there. We're kind of going out of order here, but we'll be talking about this next week too. Is so the third angel sounded, and a great star, like big, important star, fell from heaven, burning like a torch. What is that? Is that like I don't know. I need to look at one of my books. I remember I didn't read it. So burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and the springs of the water, and the star became wormwood. And wormwood is kind of known for its bitterness, right? Like that's so it kind of became a little bitter. Is that a Roman reference as well going on here? That's very, very particular to Rome, because I think that eagle, I think it is. I think that's a pretty.
So the equation is Satan equals Rome or fallen.
Yeah. And so, and I think when you look at Rome, it's we're understanding, we're seeing through John's lens here of the Babylon that is called Rome, like in this instance.
Yeah, that's where Wormwood is in Lamentations.
Lamentations too.
Yeah, 3:19.
So early on in the Lamentations.
I can't say that.
And all your translations have wormwood, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't some weird King James translation.
The concordance sends you back to Isaiah 14:12. I don't know the connection here. It says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground? In the nations Now, what does that have to do,
And that was Isaiah what?
14:12?
Okay.
That's the, with the concordance, that's what that
Goes
tells
Yeah.
you.
to 4:13.
Yeah, Isaiah 14:12
Mhm.
is what they reference for that verse.
So let's see what's going on around here.
Well,
So
that's
so
all
look-
Babylon.
so I'm looking. Yeah, it's so the this is a little bit past the calling of Isaiah, and so if I'm looking at my headings correctly, this is all about fall of the king of Babylon. And so here's chapter 14 of Isaiah, verse 3. It shall come to pass in the day of the Lord, give you rest from your sorrow, from fear, hard bondage, which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, like this all sounds like the stuff that we were just
Right.
reading in Isaiah. And then how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased, the Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepters. Let's see, he ruled the nations in anger, persecuted them. Let's see here.
It's all about the fall of
Yeah, so it's all about these,
Yeah.
like, rise of the kings,
Yeah.
and they shall speak to you. And then straight off of that, so I'll read verse 11. Well,
Yeah, right.
the pomp you have brought down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments, the maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down from the ground, and you weaken the nations. And you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, and I'll also sit on the mount of the congregation. On the further sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest. So that fall of Lucifer there is also talking about the fall of Babylon in Isaiah. And then so you have here, as we get here, we get the same language that is talking. We got this eagle imagery. It's the same language. It's the same language as Isaiah 14, which is cool. That's cool. Like you can tell. There's also similar language here, as we have just a couple more minutes left. So all these trumpets and all this terrible stuff. What does this sound like? It sounds like something very specific.
Battle of Jericho.
Battle of Jericho is not bad. Somewhere else I was thinking about, but that's not what I was looking for. But that's not
Oh,
bad.
forget it.
That's not bad.
I never said that.
No, Nate, it sounds like the plagues. And Exodus. It sounds like, but that's why I like Jericho too. Like it sounds like that as well. Like that, like you have these godly judgments on the world. I mean, you even have rivers turning to blood and stuff like that.
Right.
Like that. That's
Language.
like that.
Yeah, the
That's,
Lamentations quotes reference to the wormwood says, let's see, symbol of divine judgment and punishment.
yeah. Wormwood,
Not only bitterness.
divine judgment, and like that's great. So you have all these like ideas that are going along here, and all of a sudden this stuff sounds familiar. It's like, well, this is how God has worked in the past.
I know you don't like to put a time frame on this,
Mhm.
but I kind of do put a time frame on it, not on purpose. But it seems like they're talking, this stuff we're talking about right now in these last few chapters is now, can be now.
I think that can be as important. I think it
And that,
can be.
I think that by what you're saying here is to maybe let us realize that it is again a cycle, that
Mhm.
the same thing's happening again, the same idea, the judgments are still happening, and you can try to put it in one spot, but judgment
Well, and-
continues through.
Yeah, and you know how I am. I'm very uncomfortable with talking about, because I think we always need to get time behind us in order to be able to see things clearly. To all that, because when we're in it, we're like, it's all noise.
that's kind of what I
Yeah.
was saying, but this
Mhm.
is still going on. I don't want to put a time
Yeah.
on this date is the end of the world
No,
type
no, no, no,
feeling, but that this is happening.
And that's why I've been
Yes,
using the Babylon language, because there's always Babylon.
Babylon's all around.
There's Babylon's all around us. And like that's, and I think that's an important part. I think this is very localized into Rome right here, because that's over there. But I think just like Daniel is very localized in Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar, there's bigger ideas that are being fleshed out through it. I think that's what's going on here. And I think you're seeing, I really like the Jericho, like with the horns, that's great. I think you can see the Exodus in it. You can see a lot of this stuff.
7.
And then that all, in the 7. And there were 10 plagues, right? That's how many plagues there were? And so, but
Yeah.
you're
It was 6 plagues.
6 plagues?
Seven.
Oh, no, in Exodus,
7.
in Exodus.
Oh, in Exodus.
Oh,
Yeah, I think there's 10. And then so now we're given that 7 time frame that we've been playing with the whole time here. And so we have all these plagues that are going
Oh, the
forward.
7, I see.
Yeah.
7 of them.
And there's 7 of them here. And at the end of this chapter, at the end of this little section,
10th chapter.
Where the rest
So
of
the
the
7th one.
yeah, at the end of
I
this,
haven't got there yet.
at the end of this, this 7s, like you have the eagle going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it reminds us back, what was that, chapter 6? When all those powers were hiding, going, oh, this is all desolate. So it's almost like the same idea is going on. Like that, it's all this. So that's cool. That's cool. We'll continue with this idea next week. Did anyone have any last thoughts they wanted to get to, or forever hold your peace for?
You did a heck of a job.
Heck of a job.
You did a heck of a
Another
job.
week.
Oh, man. I don't know what that means.
You wanted the final comment.
Yeah.
What Bible are you using?
Pardon?
Yes, what Bible is that?
It's the Lutheran Study Bible.
Oh, okay.
ESV.
ESV.
I have one of those at home. I just-
Yeah. Well, it's good to have a multitude. It's good to have a multitude. This is an NIV, and this is the New King James, just because that's what the dramatized version is. It's an NIV. This is the first century study Bible. The notes the notes in this one are supposedly how would first century Christians have understood what was being said. That's what the notes are in that Bible. So this Bible's notes always have a different perspective than most other notes. This Bible, then the notes in it are, this is called the Cultural Background Study Bible. And this is like what was going on in the world during that time. And so, all right, so that's what we have for today. So join us next week. For all of you watching on YouTube, thanks for joining us today. Excellent.